Before Wolverine, Spider-Man, and Sunset Overdrive, the developers at Insomniac Games were known primarily for one game: Fuse. Okay, maybe not Fuse. And actually, they weren't just known for one game, because in addition to Spyro the Dragon and Ratchet Clank, they also made the very popular Resistance trilogy for the PS3, a game where you fight greys and everything around you is gray. So it might not come as a huge surprise that their very first game was also a first-person shooter. But did you know that this first-person shooter had tons and tons of dorky full-motion video cutscenes?
Man, aren't you getting tired of playing these games? I am.
I say if we're calling it a game, we're still not ready for a mission.
Are you kidding me? Man, I haven't missed one trick. Not even that hidden stuff. I'm ready to go.
That's right, Disruptor is more than just an early-era shooter for the PlayStation 1. It's also a time capsule for 1990s game development, a project that started on the 3DO, featuring Doom clone gameplay and live actors looking at pentagonal TVs, and published by Universal Interactive Studios. And you know what? It's actually pretty good. And that's only helped by the campy story bits between levels, where this wimpy wiener is supposed to be a badass soldier with psionic powers, working for the Lightstormer Corporation and Earth President Krieger. Before each level, you'll get a brief mission overview, and then you get this amazing sequence. After you step on the IGN logo, you're magically whisked away to a world of shimmering polygons and sprite-based enemies. Since it's an early PS1 shooter, strafing is on the shoulder buttons and firing is done with the X button. This is because back in those days, the average PlayStation owner had a basic digital controller and not the fancy new DualShock. Luckily, in today's modern mom-on-the-go world, I can remap the controls to my liking and get it configured more like a modern shooter, and once I did, it was smooth sailing from there. Whether due to console limitations or just a different design approach in general, the levels in Disruptor are not of the labyrinthine keycard-heavy style of Doom, but linear A to B obstacle courses instead. These range from sabotaging the ships of space pirates to exploring weird alien worlds. The mission objectives are generally straightforward, and I personally prefer a more exploration-based shooter experience, but this is perfectly fine fun. It allows for some odd geometry like this room full of twisty, windy footpaths. That being said, not every level is designed equally, and while some have you traversing multiple floors and tunneling through mines, others are oddly flat and just long stretches of nothing. But if Insomniac is known for anything, it's lots of weird and inventive weaponry, and while it would be a little absurd to expect that from their very first game, it's still got a few interesting tricks. As mentioned earlier, you have psionic powers, which can be used to knock enemies back, heal yourself, and explode in a burst. But you also have your shotgun equivalent, a 3-pronged repeater that fires wildly, and also this lock-on cannon? They don't feel amazing, but they get the job done. And you use this arsenal to fight enemies that range from little bugs to mechanical menaces to just plain weird, like this giant baby man. It's not the most challenging shooter I've played, but it does keep its ammo fairly reserved, and psionic power is very expensive. You can use the drain ability to sort of pull bubbles out of enemies that recharge your psionic capacity, but it's not the easiest to aim, and enemies in Disruptor aren't really the standing still type. Okay, they're not exactly fear levels of AI either, but they at least move around and zigzag while trying to kill you, so you do need to keep yourself agile and take enemies down quickly. They'll also cock your guns if they hear you coming near, which can help tip the player off about an incoming encounter. It's a really cool bit of sound design that I don't really see a lot of shooters doing. Some rooms can really get the jump on you with a major mass of enemies, which is where abilities like Terra Blast or the one-use mega weapons come in handy for clearing out a room. However, there are a couple of levels in the game that force you to use only your psionics, and I found these to be the least enjoyable because of how tough it is to drain enemies, and the levels being designed in complete ignorance of this fact. But let's talk some more about that glorious FMV, directed by Adam Weissman, longtime Nickelodeon alum who has directed on almost every major kids sitcom, from Welcome Freshmen all the way to Sam and Cat. The main character is played by Donnie Jeffcoat, and if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because you were a child in the 90s watching Wild and Crazy Kids, where Donnie was one of the hosts alongside Omar Gooding and Jessica Gaines.
Don't I ever get any R&R?
What do you call those 3 days you just had in the hospital?
You call healing from a psionic implant a vacation?
The evil space president is played by Vaughn Armstrong, who played various roles in Star Trek Voyager and Enterprise, and brings some perfectly miscast office manager energy to the role.
Just like your father. Disrespectful. I remember when I requested the funds for a teleporter that looked like my office. The bean counters thought that I was just acting paranoid.
The production designers for these bafflingly lit sequences were Curtis Schnell and Catherine Hardwicke, who would go on to become an actual big-time Hollywood filmmaker, directing Lords of Dogtown, Del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities, and the first Twilight film. Perhaps if they were given a larger budget than a Subway sandwich, these scenes would be less dreary and rooms would be larger than a McDonald's bathroom. But all this results in a finely aged cheese to snack on, even if the actors are given very little to work with. At only 4.5 hours, Disruptor is a great way to enjoy an evening if you're a shooter fan. The 32-bit era of first-person shooters isn't as highly regarded as the eras before and after, but this is definitely one of the better ones to come out of it. Levels are perfectly paced, and the enemy design gives a nice challenge even on the regular difficulty. It's also always interesting to go back to a major developer's first title and see the roots of their design philosophy as they're first planted. Now, if you want more reviews like this, be sure to subscribe for more videos, but if you'll excuse me, I have to pick up groceries.
You know, more people are walking this way, so they're in a better position to find Malto Meal cereals. They're usually down here. You should try it.